you're having a greater than great uh, Memorial Day weekend. I hope everybody's being safe. You guys are grilling out, fucking mothers. Any weekend is good when you're fucking hot mothers. Always a great time. Fan favorite. Highly recommend it. I'm gonna do about a 4 or 5 minute video, and then I have other things to be doing. Um, I want to talk about DUI checkpoints in Indiana. There's a lot of confusion. I feel there's a lot of confusion about DUI checkpoints in Indiana. Until I did my research, and basically in the state of Indiana, the DUI checkpoint, rules and regulations and laws are derived from case law. Okay, so the main case that the state of Indiana uses is Goffenheimer. Uh, I believe it's Goffenheimer v. Indiana, or the state of Indiana versus Goffenheimer. And basically, that was a gentleman from South Bend, I think, or from Mishawaka, and basically, that's what they use here in the state of Indiana to determine how to do DUI checkpoints. Okay, so a couple things. Now, the first thing is there's supposed to be turnoff points. Okay, so there's supposed to be a turnoff point so many feet before you get into the checkpoint that you can turn off. Okay, because as that's the whole intent, that it's voluntary. Okay. The other thing is there's got to be so many. There has to be signs that are illuminated so many feet before the DUI checkpoint. There is certain criteria that has to be met for it to be a valid DUI checkpoint. Okay, now I'm not giving you uh, legal advice. You're gonna have to do your own homework, talk to a lawyer, or whatever the case may be. But I'm just telling you from my perspective how I see it through my lens. Okay, now a couple things. Uh, if you guys are serious about learning the nuances, Google a famous United States Supreme Court case. I believe it's going to be Delaware v. Prowse. Delaware v. Prowse, and basically that is basically a case where if you're going into a checkpoint and you haven't committed a traffic infraction, you haven't broken any laws, um, then you're not required to show identification. Okay. Now there are some laws that have it, in the statute where if you go through a DUI checkpoint, you're required to show your driver's license and registration. I believe the state of Florida is one of those states. Okay. But the state of Indiana is not one of those states. Okay. So I've talked to the Indiana State Police Legal Department, and they and I have a tumultuous rate. So the state police legal department and the state police, them and I have a tumultuous relationship, to put it kindly. Okay, but I finally got out. I believe it was last year. Talked to a state police lawyer, and she was of the opinion, same opinion I am of, that if you go through a DUI checkpoint in the state of Indiana and you haven't actually committed a traffic infraction, or you haven't violated any ordinances, then you're not required to produce your registration and or your driver's license. Okay, but the problem is that any DUI checkpoints that have been run by the state police, they make it very clear that you are required to show identification and your registration. Okay, so if you don't, then they threaten you with that you're going to be arrested under 3428.5-3.5 and the 3 version. Okay, if you don't meet the criteria from Prowse v. Excuse me, from from Delaware v. Prowse, then you're not required to show ID. All right. The other point of contention that me and the state police do disagree on is that the state police says, well, you have to roll down your window. And I'm like, well, no, I don't. I've done my homework. Um, and I'm of the opinion that no, I don't have to. And then they say, oh, well, that's obstructing, that's interfering, and, well, okay. So, how the case law reads is basically, in a nutshell, that a cop, if you go through the checkpoint, okay, then the pig has to determine if you've been drinking, or you're impaired, rather, okay? Now, they don't say how they have to go about that. Okay, that's a gray area. They don't say how they're supposed to be going about that. Okay, so that's a point of contention where I believe, through the lack there of binding case law, that I don't have to do that. All right. So why I'm bringing this up? There's going to be some DUI checkpoints, I'm sure, this weekend. There's already been some on the 25th. But this year or some point, I'm going to find a DUI checkpoint. I'm going to have a 360 camera, have my bail and everything all set up. And basically, I'm going to go through a DUI checkpoint. I'm going to make sure that I don't violate any essential elements that are entailed in Delaware v. Prowse. And basically, I'm not going to roll down my window. I'm not showing ID. I'm not going to show my registration. And they're going to break my window, and they're going to arrest me for violating 3428.5-3 and 3.5. Okay, fine. I'll beat that. They're going to say, oh, well, you didn't roll down your window. You're obstructing or interfering. That'll be a interesting argument because there's nothing that says I have to. And also, there's a clause in basically, I forget what the IC code is, but basically, if you have a damn good reason, basically, not to follow a instruction of a police officer, you don't have to. Okay, but the problem is, though, that if you look at press releases that the state police and other agencies will release, they say, well, be prepared to have your identification and your registration. Okay, but so they're going to ask you for it. Well, asking is not requiring to produce. You see the difference? I can ask you, hey, hot bitch, I want a blowjob. And she can say, well, no, go fuck off. No, I'm not sucking your dick. See what I'm saying? She's not obligated to suck my dick. I'm asking, but then, she can refuse. Or she can say, well, sure, swiney poo, come over here. Okay, so it's a free will situation. Now, the other thing of it is, there is a video. You're not allowed to mention that name on here, sir. Maybe that was unreasonable, but it felt kind of good. The other thing is, that let's say that you are in a vehicle and you are the passenger of a vehicle. And you're going through a DUI checkpoint in the state of Indiana. You don't have to show ID. You don't have to. You don't have to produce any documents. You don't have to give them the date of birth or anything, because this case has been settled too, where in the state of Indiana, as long as you're not doing anything stupid, you're not breaking a ordinance or an infraction, just sitting there, you don't have to identify. Okay, so here's something else. I like to, hopefully the cops will watch this video and actually go do their homework and see I'm right. But that'll take fucking court cases to do that and lawsuits for that to actually get through because we're always right. We got a badge and blah, 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 we do steroids. We plant drugs. Blah, 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 blah. But it seems very apparent to me that the state police are the main culprits of this. And their own legal department says as long as you're not, committing a ordinance or any type of infraction in the state of Indiana, going into a DUI checkpoint, you don't have to produce ID. But yet, all the press releases say, well, we want to see your ID. Okay? In the state of Indiana, let's say that you are accused of robbing a bank. Okay? Any criminal allegation, you don't have to produce ID. Okay? 3428 5-3 and 3.5 specifically state ordinance on infractions. Okay? So actually being, accused of a actual crime under a Title 35, you still don't have to show ID. So anyway, you guys have a lovely, and I do mean lovely, a lovely weekend. You guys stay hydrated, and don't drink so much. Smoke a little pot. If that is legal in your jurisdiction, and don't be driving and smoking and drinking and being stupid, and everybody have a safe weekend. And if you guys are watching the NASCAR race, have fun with that. And hopefully somebody's getting a blowjob listening to this. That'd be awesome. Send me photographs and emails.